I didn't really have a role model like that to kind of look up to and say, that's what I want to replicate. I wanted to grasp the opportunity because it was an opportunity that was birthed out of sacrifice. My thought process was, how do I make people gravitate towards Mahari? This was the power that Jamaica gave me. If you're coming from a position of authenticity, people gravitate towards you more. The more I tried, I kind of had to take a step back and say, no, that's not my style. That's not my style. Something happens in you when you see the disappointment on your mother's face, right? This is your mother. She walks in with a smile and leaves with a frown. I will never let another family member feel that rejection when they're trying to build financial literacy. I saw a job and it was for like a risk analyst job. My background is architecture and graphic design. What do I know about risk? It's hard when you feel you deserve something and you get knocked back. The thing with a title, it comes with prestige. But having the title doesn't give you influence. When you close the front door in the evening, peace. And that's what she brings to me.
How do you define a leadership?
So for me,
welcome to another episode of Everyday Leadership. And today I got my good brother in the house. Man, you've seen about everywhere because he's about, you know. And I have I'm going to call it the multi-award winning with more awards to come for sure. Mahari Hay. Like his career and the impact he has on so many lives, not just through work. Like he's a director at Lloyd's, he does his thing there, but through the Bold Network, through the mentorship programs, through the conversations and the talks, and so much stuff that he actually pours out into people and communities. He's an amazing person, amazing friend, amazing character. And it's just a pleasure just to spend some time over the next hour just delving into the backstory, because he loves to talk about your story counts, your story matters. I'm like, cool, let's talk about your story, innit? How are you doing, my brother?
oh man, wow, what an introduction, first of all. I've never been introduced like that before. I feel the greatness resonating all over me, you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate your kind words and I'm excited about this conversation because you know, I know you, I listen to the things that you do and just what you stand for. And I think being able to have a conversation about a person's story, especially my own, puts a smile on my face. I'm a big smiler, as you know, so I'm looking forward into getting into it, so to see.
Let's go back to Mahari, born in Kingston, Jamaica.
Kingston,
You know,
Jamaica, don't
I'm
say a
around you
word.
serious. That flag repping strong.
And you saw that, you know what I mean? Throughout last year, any year, even this year, I'm prepping. I don't leave the Jamaican flag nowhere, right? Because I want to inspire, the next leaders, the next influencers and changes and people who are going to make a difference, not just to the nation of Jamaica, but people in general. When people think about having role models, for myself, I didn't really have a role model like that, right? To kind of look up to and say, that's what I want to replicate. So I think now, having gone through my life and seeing the power of what a role model can do or a mentor, I think it's important that I kind of taken a responsibility upon myself to step up and act as that role model for others. You might not be looking for one, but if my story can resonate with you, my actions, the things that I'm working on can empower you to also do something great, I'm all for it.
When you were younger, 8-year-old Mahari, who were you looking up to then? If at all, you say you have many role models. Well, I was curious, what were you thinking about doing at that point in time in your life, 8-year-old?
If I think about being eight, I think about the wonderful person called my mother, right? So I think for her, leaving her home to migrate to a foreign land, the UK, and then thinking about, you know what, there's opportunity for my son here, right? Do I stay in Jamaica and navigate what Jamaica has for me, or do I go and try to give him a life where he can kind of, tap into the resources that the UK had that Jamaica didn't have, back in the late 80s, early 90s, right? And I think when I look at my mom, for me, I wanted to grasp the opportunity because it was an opportunity that was birthed out of sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that has given up so much in order for you to shine. that's what really resonated with me. So I thought, I just kind of wanted to maybe do something important. I had early aspirations to, having coming from very humble beginnings. I think my first dream was probably I wanted to be an architect.
Yeah. You're into creative, like you're a very creative person.
Yeah, and just I think growing up in a house where there was many of us in a small room, I always kind of wanted to say, one day I'm just gonna build a big yard for the family. Them ones. And then I thought, you know what, that's what I want to do. And then transitioning into the UK, let's just say things changed, right? Still wanted to do that, but it was like my eyes opened to the busyness of the UK, London, and the opportunity that was there. So no longer, you know, people like to say beaches and all them thing there and sunshine and it was early struggle, right? But now I'm in a place where trains and thing are going underground. It was mind blowing for me. Never see double decker buses. It was revolutionary for me to, as a young boy, to never ever seen such things, and then come into a country where infrastructure and all these different things were just completely different.
When you made that transition from Jamaica to the UK, obviously you got your mum with you, but then you're leaving a whole heap of family back home. And I know obviously back home, that community was major. Like you're just in that community, you feel good, you have a good time, all that kind of stuff. And then you move to the UK. I'm sure you got your Jamaican accent strong at that point in time when you're making that transition as well. So what was that like for you?
Do you know what? I embrace my culture so much because my accent was strong, right? So people hear me now and they're like, wait, is this guy second generation Jamaican, as in his parents, and then he was born in the UK? No, let me reiterate. Everybody where I listen to that program, here, watching them. I'm from Kingston 13, Maxfield Avenue, born in a place called Victoria Jubilee Hospital, right? That's where I'm from. That's where I grew. That's where I spent the early part of my life. And I think you got to imagine, young boy moving to the UK, and we went into North London, Tottenham, right? And I'm going and I'm there, and I think what made people gravitate towards me was my character and my accent, right? So I didn't try to hide who I was. I was very proud to be Jamaican, but I always used to think about, right, okay, how am I gonna make impact? From early, my thought process was, how do I make people gravitate towards Mahari? And that was my transitional piece. It was about utilizing the skills that I had, right? And then finding out how I can get more skills. But it was about making sure the skills that I currently have, I need to pull people into my circle and leverage those relationships. So I was thinking like this from early, stuff. This was not to say it was strategic, but it was just the character and, the power that Jamaica gave me. I just kind of wanted to bring it to life, regardless if I was in another land.
One of the biggest issues, I would say, whether you're a young person or adult, is always how do I bring people into my ecosystem, or how do I even join an ecosystem in the first place? So you having that knowledge and that foresight, being like, you know what, I'm going to leverage everything I am and bring people into my ecosystem and lead into my skills and my character. But were those skills and character traits that you already identified about yourself that you thought other people would definitely want to get to know more of you?
That's a fantastic question, right? And when I think about it, I think the power of communication is key, and being able to share not just your story, but to share who you are and how you can add value. So when I think about when people talk about, oh, I'm a bit shy, I'm a bit of an introvert. Yes, you can be shy, right? People are different people, they act in different ways. But I think for me, I identified the power to not just communicate, but the power to manage upwards. So you have people who are operating on your level, right? Your peers, etc. But I think for me, as soon as I understood that if I wanted to get on, I needed to be able to communicate with the people that sat above me or people who had more influence at the time. So that's when people wanted to kind of gravitate towards you, because I knew how to have conversations with these people. And I think if you're coming from a position of authenticity, right, you're not pretending to be someone you're not, people gravitate towards you more because they're like, you know what? I understand the skill set this guy has, but I think the authenticity behind his approach is what's helping me buy into him, because he's bringing his true self to this conversation and he's not trying to be somebody else.
Does that always, have you always been able to see yourself for who you are rather than get lost in what other people think you should be.
Yeah, definitely. I think, trying to navigate that journey of life, you as an individual, I think people always have this conception of who they are. But if you think your brain is not fully developed, as a young boy, you're trying to work out, and especially for me, not being born in a country that you're now living in, trying to make an impact in, it's difficult because there's always a conception of what people might perceive Jamaicans to be. People from Nigeria, whatever your background is, it's like they have something in their mind to say, well, I know a Jamaican or I have a Jamaican friend and they act in this particular way, so I expect this person to behave in this manner. I think for me, it was about understanding myself first, because if you don't understand who you are, it's very hard to make an impact. You're always going to be trying to fit in, right? So stop being what did they say, a circle peg in a square hole type vibe. I had to quickly understand who I was in order to make impact for myself. And I think when you are trying to work out what that is, yes, absolutely. You fall into a way of thinking, am I supposed to be doing that? Or if I do it this way, will that give me more reception? Right? And you do try things, right? Because you're trying to figure out the best route to navigate life. And I think the more I tried, I kind of had to take a step back and say, no, that's not my style, man. I'm going to depend that. That's not my style. My style is the ability to communicate and really get into the nitty gritty, the granular details and things, and solve complex problems in a more relaxed and creative manner.
When you're going through that transition and that realization of, no, let me fully step into my authenticity, let me lean into my communication skills, all that kind of stuff. I'm curious, when do you decide to go into the world of Lloyd and banking? Because like I said earlier on, I know you were a very creative person. Like I would know that even like your mom worked hard, got your MacBook when you were young and everything. Like,
No, she didn't have no money,
huh? Nothing, but she
Listen.
saw that talent in you and she rewarded that. I wanted to expose you to a whole different level and got you that hardworking, amazing. But yeah, you went a completely different route. What happened?
So let me tell you, it's I tell people and I've shared this story, and it's the root of why I'm involved in finance, right? And again, I said this opportunity that when people see me now, I might be doing some things well, which in their eyes, there's still so much to do, but it started from sacrifice. And I never forget one Saturday, my mother said, we're going down the high street because we're going to do something special. And we go down the high street, and I didn't know that she was going to open a bank account for me. So you got to imagine, what do I know about bank account as a youth, right? I'm going with my mother, but she's not told me. So, and, just to save face, I won't mention any names of where we stepped into, right? But we walk into this very prominent high street branch. You got to think, right? I'm saying 90s. And I'm like, yo, okay. And then I'm watching my mother have a conversation with somebody, and I'm seeing the smile on her face turn to a frown, where the conversation ended quite sharply, and what was meant to be a great day or a nice day turned out to be something of disappointment. And something happens in you when you see the disappointment on your mother's face, right? This is your mother. She walks in with a smile and leaves with a frown. And I didn't know at the time, but it was a face of disappointment. It was a face of rejection. It was a face of, I tried to do something and I didn't understand. And instead of trying to, find out more, I would rather leave than to suffer any more embarrassment. So we left that, and I never really questioned my mother that same day. But I overheard her talking. I tried to open a bank for Mahari, and I never really understand certain things, etc. And what I got to find out, just through conversation, with my mom and family, it was that because she didn't know the right questions to ask, and the lack of empathy and the lack of time to feed back into her to say, this is what you do, this is how you do it, this is how you open that. My mother never really understood. And for me, I said, you know what? I will never let another family member feel that rejection when they're trying to build financial literacy, gain access to capital, understand money to kind of pump into their businesses, get money to pump into the community. And I said, I'm going to join a financial institute, climb the ladder. So when people ask questions, they can come to me. And if I don't have the answers, I will point them in the right direction. So when I tell you this was something birthed out of sacrifice, it's also birthed out of something that I wanted to change, because when I joined this huge financial organization, I looked up, there's no black people at the level that I wanted to be at. So how do you change that narrative? You roll up your sleeves and you go do it yourself. And then you begin to bring other people on that journey.
You never daunted by the task, because actually I think not a lot of people know this, but you started in the call center. So you're like bottom, this is bottom rings, and you're thinking to yourself, I want to get to the top tier to really, really make a change. But you're starting so far down low, and like you said, there's no real representation above you. Were you never daunted, or you're always determined, like, nah, I can do this?
Yeah, daunted for sure. Absolutely. But I think through the power of resilience and never forgetting the shame that my mother felt that day when she got turned away. And anything I share with you today, right? It's my story, right? And this is how it made me feel. And I think as many people do, they always want to make their parents proud and do something special to make them sit around the table or brag to their friends and say, "Yo, you know, my son work at a bank." That was my mom's story, right? And for me, that's what drove me on. And I think I just wanted to do something really kind of important for other people to kind of see, to say, no longer do we need to hide away and, ask questions that we don't know the answers to, because we have to think differently. And it's easier to have a conversation for me when I'm talking to somebody that looks like me, right? Back in the day, there was nobody that looked like me to say, Mahari, if you're looking to do this, here's a couple of courses. Here's a person you can speak to. Have you thought about using these skills to do this? That wasn't happening. So how does somebody come out of the call center then to drive that? I think you just had to be bold. And that's what I had to do. I really had to be bold and use the power of my communication skills. And, I'm sure we'll go into it, but I remember it was the hardest thing to get out of the call center to get into what is known as head office, right? You're in a very heavily operational role. And I'll never ever forget, I saw a job and it was for like a risk analyst job. My background is architecture and graphic design. What do I know about risk? And I tell you something, what happened was I saw the job advert on the internal ad and I saw the person's name. And I never forget, I saw the person's name and I just kind of remembered it. And I thought, oh, that looks good. Where is that? Oh, it's in the city, etc. And then I was standing in the lunch queue in the canteen and somebody mentioned this name, but they said the full name as if they say, oh, Michael Jones, your coffee's ready. And I kind of, oh, that's the guy that's job advertising. And I just went up to him, Sophie. I went straight up to him and said, I know you're advertising for a role. I'd be keen to have a conversation about it. And I was completely honest. I said, I got a background in this, this, and this. It's nothing to do with risk, but you put me in a room and I can sell ice to Eskimos. And it was funny because he gave me an interview. And what he said was, the skills that I'm looking for, we can help you develop. But the skills that we lack, none of my team can sell. None of my team can articulate the message. But I know if I give you this, you'd be able to influence others. And then that's how the journey transitioned from call center into head office.
You know what? That's such a powerful example of what it looks like when you back yourself. I think so many people just play themselves like, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have this. And I'm like, but you got other things. You never know what other people are going to need unless you actually step out. And you were willing to step out and have the conversation. And I was like, yeah, you don't have that. We can train that. The stuff we need, they ain't got. You got. And that's where that merger comes in. And so many times, I don't have. I'm like, you got so many transferable skills, especially those of us from our backgrounds and our cultures. Like, we know how to communicate. We've been chatting to adults from day dot. Like, that's how we had to grow up. And being able to back yourself confidently is such an important skill set that I don't think it's talked about enough.
Come on, you have to think about who you are as an individual, right? And I think about what you want to achieve. And when people say, what advice do you give to youth? What do you got? People, I get asked that question all the time. If you had to give advice, that speak with purpose. Try not to and ah, because what that shows is that you've prepared and you've thought about what you actually want to do. When somebody says, Mahari, how can I help you? Funny, you should ask that. I'm looking to do one, two, three. I'm not sure if you can help me, but I'm clear on what I want to do in the next 6 to 12 months. What happens then is people are normally taken aback because they're thinking this is somebody who's thought about what they want to do in not too distant future, and they might be able to know somebody that can help you, or they might be the person to help you. But when you come across, I'm still trying to figure things out. Yeah, no problem. Get back to me when you're ready. That person's not available when you're ready to get back to them. But be ready, be on your toes, be on job, right? And back yourself. And when you speak with your chest out, it's not a show of arrogance. It just shows a sense of preparation.
Only 17 years, you've gone from call center, you navigate yourself all the way to director. You said you were going to do what you were going to do, and you've been doing it. You've been doing it really, really well, which is absolutely amazing.
Amen.
But then you hear that, you're thinking, I know that journey was not smooth, was not easy. Are there one or two examples or incidents that you can think of where things were really tough and there are times where you thought about just quitting and just not going down a completely different path?
Yeah, for sure. I think, anything when you're trying to climb the corporate ladder, trying to do, great things. And I think, like I said, 17 to 20 years in a particular sector is, no easy feat. This is something that you're working towards loyalty, you're driving towards greatness, but it's hard when you feel you deserve something and you get knocked back. And I say that because it happened on numerous occasions. When you believe and you think that job I could do with my eyes closed, and then you look across and they've given it to somebody else who's not even performing at your level. And and I'm sure this story could be testament to many different people, right? Regardless of your profession. And there were many times where that happened to me where I used to question and think, wait, is it because I'm a black man? I'm already going twice as hard to get things done. I'm already doing things and going the extra mile and staying late and coming in early to kind of progress to show that I'm worthy of this role, right? And altering who I am to kind of get things done. And I think those were the biggest challenges for me is when I felt I deserved something and it didn't come to fruition. And I've got a very strong belief in God, and I understand that God's timing is through God's timing, everything. And I used to kind of take a step back and check myself and to say, you know what, maybe that wasn't for me, right? But I didn't know that in the early stages of my career because I'm thinking I want to progress, I want to do great things. But when setback comes, you either kind of feel disappointed in yourself or you become angry to the people that rejected you, not knowing that there's a pathway being carved out for you, right? And I took my eye off that for a little while because I'm thinking, I'm deserving of that, I'm deserving of that. Not knowing that God's saying, just cool, because I'm carving out a pathway for you that when you get there now, the right opportunity will come for you. And I think through different things that have happened, jobs that I thought I should get, or jobs I thought I deserved, I'm telling you, redundancy, job not available no more. The people that went into that job, it doesn't exist no more. But the pathway that I am on now, fruit, greatness, exposure, right? Influence. Those are the things that are happening.
Can you speak on the difference between influence and title? Because I think people conflate the difference a lot. People think I need to have the title to be able to be influential. But actually, I would say there's a reverse to that. And I think you are the perfect example of without necessarily getting to the title, like you got an app, but without getting to the title, you'll still be able to influence and change a lot of things.
So, you're asking some big man question today, Yo, yeah, yeah, you're asking a question that's like, jeez, right? Okay, so the thing with a title, it comes with prestige.
Mm.
But having the title doesn't give you influence, right? There's a prestigiousness behind it if you look at it in a particular way. But when you have influence, there's a connection that you have with people or an audience. right? And I revert back to a very powerful kind of thought that I always kind of navigate in my mind to say the numbers will always be the numbers, but if you're looking to change the numbers, you need to connect with people from a heart and mind perspective. When people understand why they're doing certain things or why they need to do certain things or why certain things need to change, it's because you've taken the time to connect with them on a human centric level to change the narrative on something. And I think through the power of influence and your story, that's what comes. Because you could have big CEO, whatever you are, but the people don't gravitate towards you, right? They just, oh god, okay, things come in, right? That's what your title was. It's like back in the day, the head teacher's coming. It's be quiet, Mrs. Coming, right? But when you see somebody who's a leader who is influential, they're more gravitating towards you. There is an aura of excellence that says, my goodness, I'm really invested in what this person has to say. What are they saying that can help me? What are they saying that can motivate me? And I think that's what I want to do. I want to be more influential than have a title where people look at it and say, oh, yeah, I know him. I'd rather be, I know him because he's helped me to do X.
When you think about your journey, you talk about how much influential your mom was to you. Sadly, she passed away like 10 years ago. I'm curious that when you think about her, think about all the different sacrifices that she made, how much she poured into you. What some of like the 2 or 3 lessons that you can crystallize that this is what mommy did?
So I wouldn't say 2 or 3. I'd say one lesson, right? But it resonates across who I am as a person. And you know me, and people who are watching this, and there will be many people who know me, right? And my mother used to say one thing: if you can choose to be anything, choose to be kind. So my mother was a nurse. So if you think about the concepts of being a nurse, you're caring and nurturing for people who are strangers many of the times, right? You don't know these people, but you're giving them ultimate care to nurse them back to health, to nurse them back to their original selves, right? And my mother used to, she used to work late and come back in, take care of me, but she'd always leave with a smile on her face because she loved her job. And she'd always used to come back and say, yo, never said yo, but she'd be like, remember I'm telling you, no? Be kind, be kind. And when you hear things like that from your parents, it doesn't really resonate, right? Because I'm like, this is just mom's advice telling me. And then as I grew older, I realized when you are kind and you can communicate with people, right? And you're not fake, but you're authentic and you're listening and you're sharing. And, sharing doesn't mean financially sharing or helping people or you're giving, right? You could just be sharing knowledge, sharing insight, sharing guidance, experience, being kind to people to help them on their way, to take them to a better place, to help them achieve their dreams. That's what she meant. And I think for me, when I think about my life and I think about what I stand for, it's always about how can I help the next person achieve their potential? Because I know what it's like to go without help and I know what it's like to experience people who are unkind. And I always kind of take a step back and think, okay, I've learned from that, right? At one stage, I used to get angry, but now I learn from that. I smile, I mark you, and I continue because you can't steal my joy, right? The excellence that was putting me from a fantastic woman is what has helped me to thrive. And then through that, there's lots of purpose, right? There's lots of great relationships, there's lots of great opportunity. And all of that greatness stemmed from a woman who saw an opportunity. And I repeat, it was birthed out of sacrifice.
I think when I think about what you said around influence, I think about your mother's example. She left that mark really on you. Obviously, your mom influenced you, but she taught you in through her work how much something like nursing and caring for people, caring for strangers, can actually make a massive influence on their lives without knowing them. And you just flow that through into the work that you do with people, the way that you communicate and you resonate. And I think it's such a beautiful pass of the torch from your mom to you, and you doing that is like her just living through you. And I'm sure she's just down there just smiling at you, like, see, that's my son, that's the kid I knew. That's
I'm on. I'm on.
always had it in it, and he's doing his thing. You mentioned something. You mentioned something here around you going from anger to joy. That's not an easy transition to make at all. How did you navigate that?
So when I think about the energy it takes in you when you're angry, right? And many of the times when you're angry with a person, they might not even be thinking about you, but you're so harboring all this negative energy in your heart and anger towards an individual or a circumstance that you may have feel have been wronged. And those who see me now, right? When they see me, I've always got a smile on my face because I choose, right? There had to be a shift in mindset, right? Where I could feel wronged, or I could feel, the injustices. And yes, definitely, you can use that to fuel you to change it. But I think when I switched from anger to now joy, right? I celebrate the good times, right? And I reflect on the negative times to say, how do I transition from that negative energy and to turn that into something positive? And it's not easy. Of course, it's not easy, but it's a mindset thing, right? And I think from early, when I wanted to change the way how I perceived the life or career progression, I said, you know what? There's a bigger plan happening. And, I'll share something with you. And, how can you lose, right? If you know that you've already won. And I draw references because, like I said, I believe in God. And if you have a strong belief in God, it tells you the race is already won, right? So it's like watching match of the day, right? You've watched your team play early in the day, you've seen them win. Match of the day is sweet. It comes on later, even if the team scored 10 goals, but you've already seen the result and you feel, and the game finishes 11-10. You're watching it without stress anymore because I believe come 90-minute mark, I know I've already won. And I know it seems a bit blasé, but I'm telling you, I'd like to think that a great outcome will come. And if it doesn't, it's a teachable moment. How do I avoid that again going forward? Or how do I pick apart certain things that I can incorporate into finding joy? And again, people always say, Mahari, you're always full of energy, you're always full of life. And that's not all the time, right? Who's like that all the time? It's because I choose, right? I choose greatness and I choose joy and I choose positivity.
One of the things I know brings you great joy is Miss Nikki.
Da-da-da-da.
I think a lot of times when people think about navigating through life, we can easily forget that actually we don't do it alone. You mentioned your mother. We also have friends or family and stuff around us, but a major part of that is also down to our partners and how much they pour into us and pull out of us and encourage us in those down and dark times and just kind of get us back up and running again. And what's that been like for you having her by your side and just navigating your journey?
Let me tell you, you're a professional, right? By my side is exactly what I like to hear, right? We all have heard of the famous saying, behind every good man is a great woman. This woman is at the side, she's at the front, she's behind, she's covering. She's a fantastic human being. And I think that companionship, right, to understand and see you in the times where you might not be smiling, the energy levels are low, but the love that she kind of brings to me and brings to, just everything that we want to achieve together has made me a better individual, right? And I think about her character. So this is another person who strives for excellence, right? We're talking 19 years in dentistry. And if you think about that sector, again, it's another sector, a very small amount of black people. But this is an individual who has worked in Jamaica, America, the UK to kind of build her profession, build her story, share her story, help other people, right? So I'm bringing from her characteristics that really kind of fuse together with mine. And I think when you have that person next to you that can share the highs, that can experience the lows, but can be a part of the journey to say, you know what, we did that, we did that. High five. Come again. One more. And that's what she brings to me. She brings that, peace that we all need because the hectic lifestyle that we all have, when we come out that front door, it's busy. Meeting. When you close the front door in the evening, peace. And that's what she brings to me.
Sit around, be able to high five each other around some epic achievements. You just came back from 3 days in Jamaica. What were you doing out there?
Oh, again. And when I tell you about this opportunity, right? Just to share this story, just a quick snippet of how this opportunity came about. And I tell you about the partnership of this wonderful woman, right? It was through her due diligence, and she has a love for Jamaica. So, Nikki's from Jamaica, just like me, born in Jamaica, but she's from a parish called St. Thomas. Her family have land and property there, etc. But she's very keen on, Jamaica in general and, how it's doing, infrastructure, investment, and all these different things. So she spends a lot of time on the podcast and, investment pages. And she came across an interview with a gentleman who's the CEO of Suncoast Beach Club, Kevin Frith, right? And she sent it to me, and I was like, well, she goes, watch this interview. Something special is happening in Jamaica. And then through that link that she sent me, I formed a very good relationship with the CEO of this, what it's the most luxurious housing accommodation that Jamaica's ever seen, right? And we formed a relationship, and he said to me, I'm doing the opening ceremony, and I'd like you to come and speak with the Prime Minister. So I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm doing a ceremony, and the Prime Minister is going to do the opening, but I want you to speak before him. The Prime Minister of Jamaica and this little ghetto youth from Kingston 13. Do you see the journey? So, right? It's transition. So I went to Jamaica. Who goes to Jamaica for 3 days? I didn't want to leave. But through that, it was so special because I connected with the Prime Minister. I connected with senior officials. I connected with, Kevin Frith. I've obviously got lots of family with there, spent time with family. But the opportunity, and I had to speak about where I came from. And through that, created so many brand new relationships because people were inspired by my journey. Because, there are hardships in Jamaica, and not everybody has the access to certain privileges and opportunities. But your story can motivate somebody into change. And to be given that platform and speak with the Prime Minister and share ideas and share thoughts and share visions for the country, visions for the parish of St. Thomas, it was a powerful moment. And the rest of the year, I believe, is going to propel into something completely different. But it was mind blowing, right? You just got to think where you're coming from, and there you are, rubbing shoulders with the Prime Minister of the country where you're from. That's good.
That's crazy. But I say it's crazy, but then I also say it's not because it's interesting you said that she's saying that podcast and you formed a relationship. It didn't just randomly happen. You reached out, had a conversation, and you sparked up a relationship. So even that, there are times when people would get information and they'd be like, oh, that was nice. Good listen, that was it. They do nothing else. But there was this follow up that you did, and obviously you didn't know it was going to lead to this, but it was just, oh, that's a nice person I'd love to get to know. And you had that intentionality and that boldness and confidence to just reach out, and it led to something else. And I think so many times it's that next step that we don't take. We listen to stuff. And I say all the time, like, podcasts, great. Listen to it, download it, subscribe. Please do. That's great. But what are you doing with that information? What are you doing with that connection you might potentially be able to make if you don't have that next follow through? And I think that's something that I've seen you do really well with where you've just been able to connect with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you should always try to adopt a call to action in your approach. So through the receiving of this link, what is my next move? What is my next step? Am I just going to listen? Am I just going to smile? Am I just going to click the like button and move on? I did my own research. I watched it. I said, wow, this is something special, right? Something, and through a message, which was nothing like, love to get a meeting with you. It was, love the work that you're doing. Any chance, love to find out a little bit more. That's all the message said. They replied, I replied, and then through that, a conversation was built. So I think sometimes you need to act on certain things, right? And really think to yourself, could something come out of this, right? but there was a genuine authenticity behind my approach because I was actually interested. And why I was interested, something special was happening in the country of my birth, right? And through other things that other people might experience, it might be a different type of connection for you. But I followed through with that connection because I was interested in what was going to take place. And then now, being whisked off to Jamaica, 3 days, rum punch, drinking coconut. Yo, I ate good. I'm gonna have to go to the gym later because I was eating like I've never eaten before. Like I just come back from the war or right. I ate good, but it was fantastic. So I felt so good, and I feel re-energized to go again. It was just a dip back home, but it filled me with so much more joy to come back and say, you know what, what's next? In February, what's next? What am I doing in February? What am I doing in March? And that's what it gave me.
How do you plan for the future? You had the goal based on what happened in your mom to go in and change things in the financial sector, which you're doing. Are there other goals and aspirations that you have that you're working towards as well?
Yeah, can't disclose those right now, but but what I will share with you, Sope, there's something that I'm currently working on that I want to bless other people, right, through their story. And I won't articulate too much more, but I think it's going to be something that's so powerful that will stir other people just because they were managed to engage with other people's story. And I think about the things that I want to do, and sometimes people just need somebody to help them connect the dots, right? And through the work that I'm doing, I believe that I can step in and be that dot connector, so to speak, for somebody else. Because I lean back and I always think about my story, joining the call center, thinking I want to be here, but who's going to help me join all these dots here? I didn't know who that person was, or I didn't know how to do that. So if Mahari Hay can step in this gap to say, I'm going to help you get from here to here because I know Sope, I know Nikki, and I know that's what I want to do. Help people navigate on their journey. And I think this plan that I have will be something that will revolutionize, so many people. It will give them visibility. It will give them, opportunity. It will build their network. And that's what I want to do. And that's something I'm working on now, just kind of get that through to fruition. I want to continue being excellent in my job. I always tell people, you know, if you're working for somebody, right, you could be an entrepreneur doing great things, so great. I work for an organization, right? And through my excellence of delivering for this organization, right, I'd be lying to say if that didn't give me opportunity, right? I've built a habit of delivering. That's how you build trust. I work for somebody, they employ me, they pay me. And why I've built trust with senior leaders, CEO, etc., is because I've developed a habit of delivery. You ask me to do something, I don't just do it, I do it to the best of my ability to show the change that is made. And I always tell people are not going to listen to your other ideas if you're not even delivering on what you're supposed to be doing. So always be good at what you're supposed to be doing, and then people are tuned in to all the other great ideas that you have.
And how do you find time to be able to manage excellence at work, manage the public speaking engagements that you do, manage the relationship that you have, and other different things that you're creating, friendships, all that kind of stuff? Because it seems like you're doing a lot, you're doing it really, really well. At least publicly, it looks like you're doing everything really, really well. And no balls are being dropped. But that's sometimes one of the hardest things for people to do. So how do you manage that?
I think for me, I prioritize, right? So God, family, everything else, right? So if my relationship and peace is with God, right, to say, God, you're the bigger picture, wrap your arms around me and help me to understand what I need to handle first, right? Everything comes with priority. So I believe if, and again, anybody that takes me on, I'm saying, this is what works for me. So I believe if I have peace in my home, it equips me with enough energy to tackle anything outside my front door, right? So if I can connect with God in a good and strong manner, it gives me strength. Family and the house is cool, so there's no stresses in there. So when I come home, everything is, as much as it is peaceful, it's lovely. I feel energized. I don't want to be busy outside that front door and then come home and still be chaotic, right? So I leverage those first two to make sure that is well taken care of first. And when I think about work and I think about the external engagements, the public speaking, it's all about prioritizing and making time. I wouldn't take on too many things. I'd understand, okay, what is going to add the biggest impact? What have I committed to? And having a missus that helps you to plan your diary is always a good thing as well, right? Think about where I need to be, how long I need to be there, and so it doesn't interrupt certain things. And again, things always change, right? Plans can move around, things can happen, circumstances, but I don't overpack, right? Because what happens is you're trying to do so much that you're doing certain things at 50%, whereas you cut it down and you're giving 100% to everything that you go for. And that's what I found, right? Instead of doing quantity, right? It's turn, and everybody's getting a watered down version of you. You're picking out key specific engagements where everybody can get 100% of you. And that's the impact. Because when people are now resonating with you to say, wow, he spent some time and really gave me some key words, because I was able to take stock, relate, speak, move on, go home. That's what happens. So for me, prioritize, God, family, and then prioritize the other engagements and do specific ones instead of a million.
Good. That's a solid piece of advice, because I think, especially right now, it's I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, and people are always looking and looking, and they're seeing what everyone else is doing, and they feel the need to do that. And I think what you said, like, you know, you can do 50% of a lot of things, but that's not great. But you can do 100% of a few things, which showcase your excellence and really allow you to really just focus intentionally. That's where you get to see the difference, because then you shine in those things more than just trying to do everything and be absolutely everywhere. It's a really good piece of
You know
advice.
it. Come on. I'm full of gems today.
James, then you mentioned when you reached out via that podcast and you sent a message and you built up that relationship. You've talked about your power of communication. What gems will you then share with someone who says, Mahari, you sound like someone who's good at communicating, you sound like someone who's good at networking. I am struggling to find mentors. I'm struggling to know how to be able to reach out to a mentor that I see out there. How would you advise someone to be able to make that initial connection in a very non-cheesy, boring kind of way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one mentor of mine always said, not to adopt a very famous slogan, but one, what's the worst that could happen by you sending a message? Two, just do it. And I took that information, I thought to myself, okay, that's great, but how do I make it my own? So when I think about Mahari and I think about the personal brand behind who I am, I built three principles that I stand for and what I believe can help other people. And it's built on three key pillars, which is engage, excite, and execute. So these are three pillars that when I think about me as an individual, when I meet somebody, when I review certain things, what are the three pillars saying to me based on what they're trying to achieve? So when I talk about engage, right, is Mahari engaging you in a way that makes you want to find out more about him, right? Through that engagement, have I developed a level of excitement within you to make you understand that, wow, this person could really add value to my business, add value to my conversation, add value to whatever it is that I'm working on. And three, you heard us speak about having a call to action. And that's having the ability to execute on the promises that you've delivered or how they can help you deliver. So when you think about it, simple engagement, think of a CV. You send me a CV, I'm reviewing that CV. Does it engage me? Is it telling me what I want to hear based on the person I'm looking for? Am I excited by your experience, the things that you've delivered before previously? And now, through that engagement excitement, I've set an interview. It's time for you to articulate what you are going to do in this role. Execute, deliver. It's your call to action. Let me hire you. And that's when I think about it. So, leading back to your question, think about who you're about to engage with, right? Or who you want to engage with, and think about who you are as a person. So, if this person works in tech. Hi, my name's Mahari Hay. Just got an XXX in this technology course. Really excited about the possibility of working with you. I'm sure I could deliver something special to your organization, or at least over coffee, let's have a chat. Quick, simple message that leads people to let you know who you are, how you can help them deliver, and the call to action is fancy coffee, right? That might not work all the time, but it will work sometimes. And that's what worked for me. And anytime I give this information, I always let people know this is something that has worked for me on numerous occasions because I'm authentic in my approach and I'm not trying to be somebody else, right? And when they do their own due diligence, they might pop across Instagram, they might pop across LinkedIn. They're like, yo, this guy's delivering. This actually is delivering on what he says he does. And that's what you need to have. So don't just use words to sell yourself. Have something ready to back it up and also have a call to action in place.
How did you get clear on your messaging on that you give out to the world, whether it's the 3 E's that you just shared or just the messaging you give out during? How did you get clear on that? Because I think that can sometimes be a stumbling block for people.
Yeah, I think for me, it was always about every time I've done something important, or it could have been just a meeting, I like to take stock and really reflect on how that meeting went, right? And I think about what went well and what didn't go so well, right? And I'm not sure if other people do this, but for me, I wanted to become better. I wanted to do better. And if I'm going to do those things, I needed to understand where I needed to improve, right? So I needed a complete clarity on who Mahari Hay was, right? Complete clarity on how I engage or interact with people. And through that kind of research on who I am, let's say as an individual, that's where the 3 E's came about because absolutely wanted people to remember me by being engaging. So when they speak with me and we go our separate ways, boy, that guy, he's good, man. Right? I have you engaged. Second one was excite. No, no, no. He's done all that. Boy, I really could work with him. And then the second phase is the next time we've set it up, we're going to execute on something together, whatever that may be. And I said that to you. We've met somewhere, right? We got engaged through our conversation, right? The call to action of that conversation, the relationship that we've built was you saying, I want to get your story out to the world. So through that conversation, we've already been engaged. We're excited about this conversation weeks in advance, months in advance. And then today we're executing on that promise.
There's a simplicity about it which is quite powerful, which I think we can easily overcomplicate it, and being able to just distill it into something simple but clear that you can get excited about as an individual, and then it's clear for the other person who's receiving it as well, is very, very helpful. Less not clunky at all. I like it. I like that breakdown actually.
Come on, I'm here to give you insight to your amazing followers and listeners. I just want to, I don't know, but I think you know me, right? And it's not a gimmick for me. It's more, I know what it's like to go without help. So when people ask me for help, you're not going to be able to help everybody. But if I genuinely can, if I can genuinely give advice, if my story can help or inspire, I'm all for it, right? I speak, I engage, I interact, and people just want to know, well, hi, what's happening? Nothing much, man. You tell me, right? I meet people in the corporate world, and they're so surprised because they expect the corporate mold to be wonderful. How it's lovely to meet, right? But when they meet me, they're like, did we just, we're brethrens, right? I've known you a long time because I'm just me. I'm like, listen, big up yourself, man. What can I do? How's things going? Yeah, I'm cool. Right? That's how I treat people. Exactly who I am.
Have you navigated it then when you treated people well, you've shown up for people, and I'm sure there have been seasons where it's felt like other people have not necessarily shown up for you, or those blessings haven't come your way. How do you handle that?
So it's funny, me and my missus was chatting about this yesterday, right? And this was when the vision got blurry, where I expected things to happen in my time, or I expected people to replicate the goodness I showed them, and it didn't happen. And these were the times where you're vexed,
Okay.
anger starts to fill your heart, and you're thinking, bro, I did that for you. Like I did that for you. I took time out of my family life, my home life, my work life, or whatever it is to help you deliver on something. And now comes my hour of need and you're not around. How do you take that? How would anybody take that? They would feel disappointed. They would feel hurt, right? And I think I became clouded by, you know, feeling that the world owed me something when it didn't, because I realized I just needed to trust God and switch that mindset from being angered to say, that wasn't my time, or that wasn't the conversation, or that wasn't the relationship I wanted to build for you, right? And take a step back and just apply my heart in a different way, right? And I'm not going to say that it's worked all the time, but I think having a spirit of contentment to know that I'm blessed regardless if I have that opportunity or not is what has brought me a lot of peace. I'm telling you, like for me, being content to know that what I have is a complete blessing. But what's even more exciting is what's to come. That's how I've dealt with it now. I like the way you're nodding, you know. That means you're like, yo, lots of gems. The way I'm gonna cut this up and put it out, there's too many gems here.
I just love the rawness and authenticity. I think there are times people be like, nah, that never happens. And it's like, no, that's reality is you're gonna feel like it's gonna bun you. Like people, you've been there for people, you've shown up for people. And you're like, why not me? But being able to let it know, get the best of you, and like you said, let the anger just naturally come up or come down and go away, and just step into like, you know what, God, just do you. Like you know what you're doing. You've always had my back, and I'm just gonna lean into that. It's a great place to be. Not easy to get to, but it's a great place to be where you when you eventually land.
Absolutely. It's a great place to be. And I think the sooner people can tap into that peace that is there, and nobody's not advocating to say, my story is my story. What has worked for me has worked for me. And I think, people are always like, yo, you look so young. I'm like, yeah, because I'm at peace. I'm at peace because I know I'm content, but I know there are greater things to come.
As we just come to the end of powerful interview, which has been absolutely dope. How do you define a leadership?
So for me, when I think about leadership and I think about a person that wants to lead others, it's can you resonate with what your audience is going through? Can you show up for them when they need somebody? And can you influence them to think differently? That's what leadership is for me. And I think there are people who are acting as leaders who are not getting it right, but there are leaders who want to get it right and they're open to have conversations. And I think that's what we need to do, right? Being able to influence people in order to think differently or adopt a different mindset is absolutely powerful without fear or persecution, right? It's here's a lived experience of me connecting with you. And have we thought about this? Because this won't only just benefit you, but it will benefit everybody. That to me is what a true leader is.
I'm going to ask you a question, Jeb. I don't think I ever asked before, actually. If you had one ask to anyone listening who could help, support, open up doors, opportunities, I don't know what that looks like for you, what would that be?
Call me immediately. So, one ask for me is don't assume that Mahari has so much exposure, he already has the contacts or the leverage in place. I want somebody to say, you know what, regardless, I don't know, but I'm going to reach out to Mahari to understand if there's anything that we can collaborate on, we can work together on, we can share ideas on, we can just chop it up. And then that's my ask. I think I would encourage people to reach out to me just to have a conversation and make that human connection, right? And just never assume that somebody has arrived. I'm so far from perfect. I'm so far from the destination that I want to be at. And I think I'm so open to finding new relationships that will help me help other people. That's the key. I want to build relationships with people that will help me help other people flourish and achieve their aspirations.
Where can people connect with you best then?
For me, Absolutely. You can hit me up on my Instagram. That's at Mr. Mahari Hay. LinkedIn is popping. My name, Mahari Hay. And also my website, www.maharihay.com. There you can kind of hit me up. You can send me emails. You can see where I'm speaking, or you can just contact me for speaking engagements. You know, my story's here to be shared. I'm here to influence. And through that, has brought me so many different things, from hosting to speaking to round tables to networking, panel events. The list goes on.
The man full of wisdoms, and all you heard today was just a small little segment of that wisdom that he shares and dispels out in so many different networks, all the way from the UK, flying out to Kingston, to Jamaica.
Come on.
Doing this thing for a couple of days with the Prime Minister.
I must say, I don't have my flag here today, because I would have been waving it here.
But you wanna get in touch with Mahari. He's doing amazing work. He's changing the game for other people, and I think someone always said this quote, which always stuck with me. People create things to fill the gap that they never had, and you're doing exactly that. It's you recognizing that journey for you to go into financial institutions and change the game has not been easy. You haven't had that many role models in front of you to be able to navigate, and you're doing a lot of things differently that I know has impacted a lot of people. The awards you've won kind of reflect some of that, but it's actually bigger than that. It's around purpose for you. And I want people to be able to come around, amazing people like you, and just be like, yeah, I see what you're doing. How can we help? How can we support? So make sure you connect with him. Like, follow, and share this episode. And I appreciate you all for listening. This is Everyday Leadership. We'll see you next time.